Hello and welcome to my channel. This is another card in my Thanksgiving 2017 card series. This card will feature fancy frost background paper, which I got from Stampin' Up, which I have done a little bit of watercoloring to bring out some colors and a little bit of distress blending to highlight the embossed edges of the paper. This is a simple card design which also features a little die cut, and it can go together very quickly and very simply. Let me move this aside and show you the materials that I use, and then we'll talk about how to make this card. First, the papers. I have a card base cut 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a black mat cut 5.25 by 4. A white panel, also 5.25 by 4. I have cut down a piece of the Fancy Frost embossed specialty paper by Stampin' Up, and this one has the leaves design, which has been etched into it, and this is 5 by 3.75. I also have a piece of watercolor paper. This is 4 by 2.5. And I also have a piece of fun foam, which I have taped a piece of purple cardstock onto it. So the fun foam is light purple and the cardstock is purple. This is a very weird cut because I was trying to utilize the paper savings technique. So I had a rectangle and I used half of it to make this one, so I just trimmed right along the center of that rectangle to get this piece to make the second card for you. And I can tell you that the original dimensions were 5.5 by 2, but you just need enough to get this die cut out. The stamp set that I'm using today is going to be Wonderful Stamp and Cut by Hero Arts. This is a die set which has several sentiments, and it has an inside part that you can put into this silhouette, the outline, and it also has a matching die cut, but I'm not going to be using the die. I'm going to be using the Fall Holidays stamp set by Stampabilities. I just need this leaf. I have some stitch frames which I'm going to be using, and this is the die cut set by Little Yellow Bicycle, and I'm going to be using this Thanks right here. I'm using the Warmest of Wishes stamp set by Stampin' Up to get this wreath. The inks I'm going to be using today is going to be Distress Stains. I have 4 different colors. I have Abandoned Coral, mustard seed, carved pumpkin, and peeled paint. But you could use whatever colors you had, whatever watercolor media you had. I'm also going to be using Versafine Onyx Black, Vintage Photo Distressed Ink, Bamboo Leaves by Memento, Potter's Clay by Memento, and also Cottage Ivy. I have a stamp which is from the Days to Celebrate by Hero Arts. And because I'm going to be doing some blending, I have a Ranger's blending tool. I also am going to be using a little bow. Alright, and I also have 2 1.5-inch stitch squares, which are leftover paper from a card design I'll link down below in the comment section, which generated a lot of these squares. So I'm trying to use these paper squares up in my card designs, and this is, I think, like the 3rd time I've used it. So if you don't have that, of course, you just need a square of black, which is 1.5 square. Alright, let me clear these things away and start in how to prepare this card. The first step, I'm going to make the background. So I need to bring in a piece of paper to make sure I don't make a mess on my work surface, and I have everything set up to go. And it's just a matter of laying in the color along the surface here wherever I think it looks nice. And I'm going to start out with the light color and just pop it down here and there. The colors will not blend very well, but that effect is what I'm going for. So I'm going to overlap it just a little bit. And a little bit up here. There's no real method to this. I'm just doing what I think looks interesting. Okay, and a little bit of green. When I bring in the green, it's going to be really overpowering, so to be really careful. And also don't want it to start making brownish areas too much. A little is alright, but not too much. Okay, a little bit more ink here. Alright, a little bit there too. Missed a piece. Okay. Very quick, very simple, and looks kind of crazy, but that's what I'm going for. Now I'm going to give this just a moment to dry, because I was a little bit heavy with the green. And I'm going to take the vintage photo and go all over. And when I bring the vintage photo, you will see the leaf pattern in the embossing just jump right out. This paper was really nice, and I had only had 2 12 by 12 sheets in the pack, but I wish it had more because I would have really utilized it in other card designs. Okay. There's a couple of other sheets. I think there's a couple of sheets of chevron, and I know one was a straight diagonal line pattern, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be using in my Christmas card design, which I'm going to be starting my Christmas cards very soon. I think maybe two more Thanksgiving cards, and then I have finished for this year. So there we go, all finished. Ordinarily I would have sped past this, but it went so quickly, so I don't think you'd mind that. So let me get this out of the way. Finish with that. This will be completely dry by the time I get to it. So I'm going to move right along, and I'm going to do the stamping for the front panel. So I already have my Misty tool with the wreath in place, but I need to ensure that I get the Happy Thanksgiving in the center of the wreath. And I think it'll be easier to stamp the Happy Thanksgiving turkey before I do the wreath. I did it the opposite way in this card, so I'm going to switch this up a little bit. So I'm going to just estimate about where I think the center is. Hopefully I'll get it right. Okay, and I need to clean that. I have taken all of my stamping materials and put them away last night, trying to clean up a little bit, so I'm a little bit disorganized this morning. I could have taken a little bit more time, but I really wanted to get stamping. But you know how it is. Life happens. Okay, so now I'm going to have to move this because it's not quite where I need it to be. So I'm looking right through there and centering it, and then transferring it to the door. Now this one I'm going to stamp with the Cottage Ivy. Oh, I have a dark area there. I hope you can still see. I don't know what's going on with the lighting. Okay. And if I don't get a good solid impression, I'm going to do it 2 times. And I didn't. I've just re-inked this pad, but it's still not as juicy as I like it to be. And because I'm using a stamp positioner, I will be able to stamp right again in the same spot. Okay, we're going to go with that. Clean this off. Okay, I'm going to set that aside to dry for just a moment and bring in my inside panel, and I'm going to do the stamping on that. Now this panel design, I've already done it a couple times, so the stamps are already in place. So I'm going to put, uh-oh, woo, that was a mistake. There we go. Don't let these two magnets touch. Now it's time to do the die cutting. So the thanks die cut is going to go out of the purple, and the rectangle I'm going to get cut out of the watercolor panel. So I'm going to run this through the die cut machine and I'll be right back. Okay, I have this die cut, and you can see, I think, the stitched line around the edges, and this one. So I'll just free it from this little stuff. You have to be really careful when you're making intricate cutouts that you don't inadvertently stretch it out of shape. So I'm going to be really careful with this. I'm going to use my pokey tool and poke out the die cut pieces. There's holes in the die cuts to help you free them from the die. But now that I have it, I have to be really careful. So I'm going to bring this closer so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, the last little bit there. I think you can see that too. Okay. Now the rest of the card is going to be simple assembly, and I'm going to do the little bit of watercoloring that this needs. And I'm using my watercolor wax pastels, as I mentioned. So I want to give this a little bit, mostly orange. So I'm going to go through all the crayons, all the leaves at once. Alright, one more, and this needed more. And now I'm going to put just a hair's breadth of brown on the tips. Just to give it a little bit of shading. It won't show up, because this is so small, it won't show up as very prominent, but you can get a slight bit of it if you lean in. Which is all I'm going for, just a subtleness. Now I need to get my water pen and a paper towel, which I always forget. Make sure it's flowing, and just blend it out. Okay, there's two. Now everything else is just simple card assembly. So I'm going to finish this light watercoloring, and then I'm going to assemble the card. Okay, it went together very quick, and I ran into a couple of hiccups, as I'm sure you noticed. I didn't realize that my camera wasn't running when I did my die cuts, so I had to reshoot that part. And also, this card's a little bit darker on the blending than this one is, but I think they both look fine. And I don't know if you could tell, but I used the white panel to help me line up the placement for this black square. So I held it in place temporarily so that I could get the lining up, put the black one down, move the white one away, and press it down. And I accidentally moved it, so I had to do that again. But, you know, this is live. This is what happens. So I'd like to thank you for subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to put out really interesting content very frequently. I'm almost finished my Thanksgiving series. I'm about to start my Christmas series either the end of this week or next week. And I hope you will join me as I start those cards. I'd like to thank my brother David for the music that he's providing for my channel. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And I'd like to remind you that Friday, I'm going to have another Freebie Friday, and that video, if you comment on it with the words Freebie Friday, you have a chance to win whatever my free item will be. I try to get that video up on Friday, but if not, the very first thing, Saturday morning, the video will be out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Again, please subscribe, pass the word, and have a great day. Take care.